Hi there, I'm Steve Lorello. I am the .NET Developer Advocate here at Redis, and in this video, we're going to be covering a new .NET client library for Redis called Redis OM. So a pretty fair question I'm sure a lot of people watching this video are asking is, what exactly is Redis OM? Redis OM stands for Redis Object Mapping and More, and it's meant as a higher level abstraction over Redis to make your life as a developer a little bit easier. So let's go ahead and jump in. I'm going to start Redis now. I'm going to start Redis by running docker run /-p 6379:6379 Redis labs, and I'm going to use the REJSON module. The REJSON module is really going to unlock a lot of the cooler features in Redis OM. And in here, I'm going to do, I'm actually going to create a new console app. So I'm going to do a .NET new console -n test Redis OM. And if I cd into test Redis OM, I can then add the Redis OM package. So .NET add package redis.om. Now, if I open this up in Visual Studio, I can just pop into my program, and in a couple lines of code, really quickly, I can connect to Redis equals new Redis connection provider, pass in Redis URI, pointing to localhost :6379, which is where I want to go. I say using Redis. And then I can just call stuff in Redis. So I could say response equals or connection equals provider connection. This is going to be the actual handle if you want to run any raw or Redis commands. And I can say connection.execute. That's a ping. That's going to respond. And then I can console write line response, and just like that, I have connected to Redis, sent ping, and got pong back. Now, it's a pretty simple way to connect to Redis, but that's not what's really cool about this library. So the first really neat feature about this library, and I'm actually going to go ahead and do a connection.execute /db, because I'm going to be creating some indexes and it doesn't make a lot of sense to create them multiple times. So I'll just flush the database every time that this program exits. So one of the really neat things about this is that I can create a new class. So I can create a Muppets class. I like using Muppets, they're fun, family friendly usually. So I can create a Muppets class, and I can declare this as a document. And after I've declared it as a document, anything in here that I choose to add, so I can do prop string, first name, I'll also give it a last name, and a personal statement, and I'll also give them an age, and I'll also give them essentially coordinates, which be geoloc and where they allegedly live. So anything that I add in here, I can now store in Redis as a document. So it's actually stored as either a hash or as a JSON object, depending on how I set this in here. So I can go into program.cs, and now in here, I can, full disclosure, I wrote a few Muppet objects ahead of time. I wrote a Kermit, a beaker, and a Bunsen ahead of time, so I'll just go ahead and import the stuff I need for that. So Kermit, Beaker, Bunsen, they all have a bunch of attributes in them that I'm going to go ahead and now set. And with that, all I need to do if I want to store like Kermit in Redis is say connection.set Kermit. And then I can get Kermit from Redis now. By just saying connection.getAsync, passing in the type that I want to bind the result to, and permits ID. So now I can just do a console.writeLine, also Kermit.first name, and also Kermit.last name. And you'll see that when it comes out of Redis, oh, Kermit the frog is right there. And the interesting thing is here, it's actually saved Kermit as a hash and just gotten Kermit from the hash. And then if I want to change that behavior, so it's storing it as JSON, all I have to do is go in here and say storage type equals storage type.json. And now, if I run the same bit of code over again, it'll switch it over to using JSON instead of using and so that's a pretty neat feature that's available to anyone who wants to use this library. Now, if you want to get into some of the more advanced stuff, that's why we brought along the Redis JSON library. We can actually search for things pretty easily with Redis OM as well. So if I go back into my Muppets class and say I wanted to search for all the Muppets by their first name, or really any of these. So I want to search for any of these now. I want to search for for Muppets' first names or last names. I might want to do a full text search of a personal statement, and I might want to run a range query and an age, or I might want to do a geofilter on the Muppets home. I can now do all that. And if I want to create an index for an object in Redis, all I have to do now is say connection.readIndex, and I just pass in the type of Muppet. And that will create the index for me. Yeah, so one of the downsides of Redis sometimes is that if you want to search for things, you really need the keys to them, and you can go ahead and manually build your own secondary indexes. But Redis JSON and Redis OM together make this much easier. So I went ahead and created this index for Muppets. And now if I want to find all the Muppets named Kermit, for example, and before I do that, let me also add Bunsen Beaker to my database. So Beaker, Bunsen, and Kermit are all set now. And they're all in Redis. So say I wanted to find just the Muppets named Beaker, okay? So I could say for each, well, first, before I actually start looking for things, I just need to pull out a Redis collection from the provider. So I say provider.redis collection Muppet. Or Muppets equals provider.redis collection Muppet. And now, if I want to find things in Redis, so if I want to find the different Muppets in Redis, I can say for each var Muppet in Muppets, but instead of in Muppets, I do Muppets.where. I want to find Beaker, right? So I say Beaker. And I can even await this for each loop because this is actually asynchronous. I do a console.writeLine, and I'll just say Muppet.first name and Muppet.last name. And it printed out Beaker. So it's pretty neat, right? So I'll just demarcate this. What if I want to find Beaker or Bunsen? Well, I could do the same thing, but I can just say and here we go. It printed out Beaker and Bunsen. So I got both of them. And it goes more, we do more than that. I can look for all the scientists. So all the Muppet scientists. And I mean, I'm not that familiar with Muppet canon, but I know Beaker and Bunsen are both scientists, and in their personal statements, Beaker says that he's a lab assistant and a scientist, and Bunsen says that he is a scientist and an inventor. Well, this field personal statement is marked as searchable instead of just indexed, which means that we can do full text searches on it. So I can now match scientist within this personal statement by just saying x dot personal statement equals scientists, and that will also print out Beaker and Bunsen for me. All right, so that's if we want to do a full text search on a Muppet. We can also do like age range queries too. So Muppets less than 65. And in this case, I have set Beaker's age to 43, Bunsen's age to 45, and Kermit's age to 66. That's just based off of their appearance on the Muppets. So when they appear on the Muppets, I assume that was day 0 for them. So in here now, all I have to do is say x dot age is less than 65. And that will also print out Beaker and Bunsen. And just so you don't think I'm like messing with you, I'll do all the Muppets older than 43, which will print out both Bunsen and Kermit. So Bunsen and Kermit both got printed out there. Now, what if the Muppets wanted to find a place to go out to dinner, for example? They wanted to see, oh, what's a restaurant that's near all of us, okay? Now say they have like a candidate restaurant, like Nobu's, for example. I put, for some reason, I put all the Muppets out in LA. I'm pretty sure that's where the Muppets is filmed. I'm pretty sure it's filmed at Disney Studios out there. If I'm wrong, I apologize, but that's all right. So what if I want to find all of the Muppets within 10 miles of Nobu's? Well, up here I actually also have Nobu as a geolocation. So I can say await for each var Muppet. Well, I'll just copy this bit. Just change query. But instead of Muppets.where, I could do a Muppets.geofilter. And I could say x.homelocation and the longitude. So Nobu.longitude, Nobu.latitude, 10 and miles. And I have to close that out with a parenthesis. And in this case, all 3 of them are within 10 miles of Nobu's. But how many of them are within 5 miles? I can change this, and it will only print out that Beaker and Bunsen are within 5 miles of Nobu's. So there's all sorts of really rich and neat functionality that you can take over with just querying in Redis for using Redis Home. And all you have to do is make some relatively simple changes to your Lambda expressions to really build a pretty rich and cool Fluent API for searching for objects in Redis. Now, there's also another feature in Redis JSON that's really worth in Redis OM that's really worth pointing out here. That's aggregations. So if I want to aggregate things, the first thing I need to do is go in and mark things as aggregatable. So say I want to aggregate true. Say I want to aggregate the age and location of Muppets. So I just go in here and inside this index attribute, I just mark aggregatable as true, and that will let me actually run aggregations on age and home location. So what if I wanted to find out how old all the Muppets would be in 3 years? I could say for each, well, first I need to grab a aggregation set from the provider. So Muppet aggregations equals provider dot aggregation set Muppet. And now I can use this aggregation set. And I could say await var result in Muppet aggregations dot apply. So if I wanted to apply a function to Muppets, I could say, now I want to say Muppets ages in 3 years. I could say x dot record shell dot age. This record shell object in here is just supposed to represent the object being aggregated on. It's actually, if you go into the result, it's always going to be null because aggregations only return the aggregations that you request from them. They don't actually return all the components of the object. So this will always be null. But inside of an expression, we can use it. So, and then I need to pass in an alias, age in 3 years. Well, now I can do a console.writeLine result sub age in 3 years dot to string. Now I'll print out the age of all the Muppets in 3 years. So 43. No, that's the current age. It just printed out their current age. So plus 3. So 48, 69, and 46. I can also run some pretty neat aggregations using location. So say we want to take the same example as before, and we want to find folks' distances from Nobus. I'm going to do await for each result in Muppet aggregations dot apply, and I can say apply functions dot geodistance, and I can say Nubu and the records on location. And I will say that this is the distance from Nobus. You see it prints out the distance from Nobus, and this is importantly in meters. So that's a lot of what's in the Redis OM package so far. It's pretty neat. It allows you to do quite a bit of pretty neat stuff. And yeah, it should be a real value add and should be really interesting for folks to get using. If you want to learn more about it, come to visit us in GitHub, github.com/redis/redis-om-net. Also, you can take a look at the docs site. I think it's at redis.github.io, redis-om-net. There's a couple of articles on here for you to look over how to do stuff in Redis OM, and also basically all the summary documentation for the library is in here too. And if you have any questions or want to essentially check out the library or contribute, please stop by the library GitHub and ask your questions and submit your PRs. All right, well, that's about all I have.